Hello, my name is Ross Cameron. I'm an architect with Elkis Manfredi here in Boston. Today we're going to talk about and walk through the Joan and Edgar Booth Theatre and BU Production Centre. We're starting on the 4th floor, which is the top floor of this building, and mainly because I wanted to talk a little bit about how this move into the Charles River campus is actually more than just one building for the College of Fine Arts. So we're standing in the undergrad and the graduate design studios. You can see there's a gorgeous view of the Charles River and the BU Bridge. But what's important to understand here is that the School of Theatre has been somewhat exiled down in the Huntington Theatre, and now what we've done is we've brought them back into the heart of what's becoming almost a smaller arts district for the College of Fine Arts, adjacent to Com Ave at the BU Bridge intersection, because across the street we have 855 Com, and then right next door to us is 808 Com, where I believe there's just some new graphic design studios were put in place there. So we're starting to get a real symbiosis between each of these schools, centered around what I think is going to be a phenomenal arts cluster on Com Ave. We're going to talk a little bit about the design when we get down to the lower level, the design of the building. But I do want to point one thing out on this level, which we thought was a lot of fun. The aesthetic for these studios is kind of industrial and gritty. So this truss element that you're seeing here will remain like that. We're going to paint it, obviously, but it won't get boxed in. It's kind of raw. And we really like the idea that there's a connection, physical and visual aesthetic connection between this and the BU bridge structure itself. So it's a lot of fun to be up in this space. We brought the undergrad and the graduate design studios to the front of the building, knowing that they likely will be up into the wee hours working away on set design and everything else. So there's always going to be life and activity, lights on up in this portion of the building, which I think helps engage it with the street below. So let's take a wander down. We can go past the sound and light lab, maybe point out the costume storage, and we'll move down into the main lobby, if that's okay. I should point out that this theatre building itself is 145,000 square feet or so. That amounts to 75,000 square feet of program for the school itself, but then there's also a 70,000 square foot two-level parking garage in the basement, and that provides about 280 parking spaces. Watch the puddle there. It was raining the last couple of days. So it's mostly faculty offices. On this level we do have two smart classrooms. This is one of them, and there's another one on the other side of the courtyard. They're smart classrooms because they're heavy on the audio-visual and IT infrastructure. We can do video conferencing and all kinds of things in this space. Excuse me. So this is the sound and light lab. It's actually a double height space, so what we're looking at here is the upper level. This wood floor is temporary. They call it a dance floor, and we just put it down during construction to make it easier for them to set all the rigging lines and any of the the theatrical lighting that will go into the space. So we'll take a wander down and we'll look at it from the next floor down. So this is our sound and light lab, and from what I understand, this is something that the School of Theatre doesn't really have at the Huntington, certainly not in this arrangement. And this is really going to give them a creative boost, I think, in being able to experiment with all different kinds of lighting effects, sound effects, but being able to do it together is pretty unique. So the dance floor that's above me right now, that's what we were standing on the upper level. But if you can see where the steel beams are, those are going to be catwalks So they function very much like catwalks you would find in a regular theatre. So we can do follow spot aiming, we can do green screen filming, do all kinds of things in this space. And I wouldn't be surprised if this space becomes somewhat of a second or third performance space as well, because it really is that special. This little room over here is like almost like the mixing desk that you would find in a recording studio, except it's all for the sound and lighting effects. So a lot of acoustic separation between these two spaces, but that's your control booth in there. So let's continue, and we'll go down to the ground floor and through to the lobby. Before we do that, I will point out there's a couple of other really large volumes back here in the building program. This one is the prop storage. So this I don't know what they're going to store in here, but it has to be able to be almost anything. And then next door to that we have the costume storage, which is going to be able to house all of the costumes that they have in one place and continue to allow that collection to grow. Okay. I'm going to try and make sure we get the right floor this time. Was it 2? It was 2, wasn't it? Yes, one more. Hey, Oliver. Okay, so we're still in the back of the house here. We're going to go into the actual studio theatre in a minute. But the division between the back of house and front of house happens right at that portal there where we're going to have a door. So everything north of that is accessible by the public, students at large. This is the School of Theatre back here. So this is our main lobby. It's a pretty spectacular space. It's 40 feet tall by 112 feet. This glass is construction that we do very rarely. It's expensive, but it's absolutely gorgeous. The glass actually came all the way from Spain. A lot of high-tech engineering goes into systems like this. So this lobby is really going to be something special, and it needed to be, because what we're actually doing is connecting the lobby volume, the physical volume of the lobby, to this new plaza called the Arts Plaza, which is basically still under construction, as you can see. But if I can point out on our rendering over here, you get a sense of how this glass wall will actually really engage with people out in the plaza. So it's it feels much more like an inside-outside space. It needs to be grand because it's theatre, and I don't think BU had that at the Huntington, but they're definitely going to have it here. I do want to say one thing. As I mentioned, this design's a little bittersweet for us at Elkis Manfredi, because Howard Elkis, one of our founding principals, sadly passed away earlier this year. So he never got the opportunity to see this finished, but I know he'll be looking down on us, very excited about the progress that we're making. To talk a little bit about the design, when we met with the School of Theatre, in particular Jim Petosa, but there were others also, we asked them, what does this building need to be, what should it be? And we kept hearing the same themes. The building should be transparent, it should be engaging to the BU community and the public at large. It should be fresh, edgy, provocative. And we also heard, obviously it's a new beginning for the School of Theatre, having been at the Huntington for I think almost 30 years. They're not bringing anything from the Huntington, but one thing which we thought was really interesting, and it's actually a Shakespearean quote. I believe it's from Hamlet. It goes something like, "To hold us 'twere the mirror up to nature." Now that's something that is esoteric, that the school wanted to bring with them, and we're actually going to incorporate it in this gallery space just behind me as a backlit element with the same font that mirrors what was the quote above the proscenium opening in the Huntington. So that's the only thing that they're bringing. And we thought that was kind of cool. So then we started thinking about, well, how do we imbue the building? How do we make the building represent transparency? How do we take that mirror effect and create something exciting with it? We also were kind of intrigued by some of the theatrical devices that theater designers and directors use to create form and mass on stage when there really is none. And they do that with scrims and lighting and these theatrical fabrics, and that really intrigued us. Of course, we can't build buildings out of fabric, so what we did was we abstracted that idea and we came up with this ultra high performance concrete kind of exoskeleton. It's not structural, but it gives that notion of woven fabric and the idea of we're calling the theatrical fabric. And the other major design move was we tipped the facade forward at 14 degrees. And it was a very deliberate move because what we wanted to do is to literally engage people in this building. So the Arts Plaza will be populated by students, members of the public. There'll be people cycling past on the bike lane. And our glass, like the mirror to nature, is going to pick up and unwittingly put some of these people on our stage, which we thought was kind of cool. It's provocative and a little playful, which I think is all the things theatre should be. So let's go and take a look in the studio theatre itself. So this is the studio theatre. It's voluminous. We can hold accommodate 250 to 260 patrons in here. What you're looking at through the floor level there is this is fully trapped. So it gives the theatre a lot of flexibility to do all kind of cool things with their shows. But in a regular state, the floor level will be where we're standing now, and you won't see into the trap room. That's something that will come very late in the construction as they start to finish this thing up. There are two gallery levels. The lower of the two levels will be something that is used by the public and the BU community. And then the upper one is a much more technical gallery that primarily will be used for lighting positions and theatrical effects and those types of things. So one of the things that we don't like the term black box, which is what a lot of these spaces tend to be called, because this is really so much more than that. Yes, it's going to be dark and painted out and highly flexible. It's essentially a laboratory for theatre, so the students can learn everything that they need in the world of theatre can essentially take place in this machine for theatre. So we don't like the term black box, it's too plain. This actually has a level of kind of opulence to it, I think, in terms of the finishes. Let me just show you a render. It's a little dark over here, but so this is one of our renderings of the interior of the space, and we're going to walk through this giant 18-foot tall door at the back of the building in a few minutes. But these are all solid wood panels that are arranged in slats, and they're actually functional for acoustic attenuation. The room is essentially tuned right now to be kind of a middle line, but we've introduced the possibility with these sliding panels where you could have acoustically dampening fabrics or acoustically reflective metals and woods. So the whole space can either be tuned for one performance type or the other. So if you want the space to be more operatic, more lively, then you kind of move all of these to the side and allow it to be reverberant. If you want it to be much more deadened, say you're doing something that is using a lot of amplification or video, then we can have drapery hung on all of these. we could have drapery hung on this rigging system in the ceiling. This is a very high-tech system here. There are 9 squares essentially that can all individually be controlled to go up and down. They can come all the way down to the lower level, so the students aren't climbing up in a crane to fix lighting or effects. So everything can be loaded up down there and controlled by lifting it back up to whatever height. So the way we're showing this right now is kind of in a neutral mode. I'm sure Jim Petosa and the folks at the School of Theatre are going to come up with a whole host of ways that we haven't even considered in how to use this space. So let's take a walk through to the production wing now. Watch your head there. We should walk underneath here. I'm not sure how they're going to get that crane out of here. Oh, it's quite small. So just watch your step here. So this is, we're now in the production wing side of the building. We're actually going to deliver this first. It's getting near to completion. And what we're standing in right now is the main corridor. We call it the street. There's going to be a lot of activity in this space, and we'll kind of explain the function of this when I show you a diagram of the plan. So in here, this is the paint shop wing of the production center. So this is 300 feet long, and it connects to a loading dock all the way down at the end there. We're going to walk down there in a few minutes. But I wanted to point out the way that we've arranged the programming and the planning of the building is very simple, and it really is driven purely by function. So what we have at the east end here is our loading dock where raw materials are brought in. They're sorted, stored, batched, handled, and then we get into this fixed tool area where they start to get machined and cut and shaped. They can be constructed in this portion of the scene shop, and as they move further and further down this essentially a theatrical assembly line, they get to the end in the main paint shop. That's the last kind of activity that takes place, and they can either go from there straight into the black box theatre for shows that are taking place here, or they take a right and they go all the way down the corridor, and they can be loaded on a truck and taken to a show anywhere in a rented facility in Boston or elsewhere. One other thing I want to point out is the arrangement of the theatre building itself has the main black box surrounded by kind of ancillary spaces, and this is a deliberate move to basically insulate acoustically our theatre from the kind of urban environment around us. Obviously the walls are also very high-tech, so there's a lot of sound separation between the spaces, but putting the theatre right in the heart of the building just felt like not only the right thing to do, but there are a lot of functional reasons why that helps us. So should we go, let's go walk, I don't know whether we should walk on that or go down the corridor. Let's do the corridor. We can look in, but they're laying this sacrificial floor, which essentially allows the paint shop to lay down theatrical flats the size of the largest proscenium in a theatre in Boston, and actually paint all the scenery and stuff like that. That's why the walls are so high, they can hang stuff there. And I should actually point out before we leave here, this air wall, which can subdivide these two spaces, and again it gives them another surface on which to mount stuff. Take a look at it, light it properly as if they're mimicking theatre lighting, and make adjustments. So the spaces get gradually smaller in height as we kind of march down the corridor. So these doors are kind of interesting at the end here. They're actually They're actually sectional roll-up doors, but they have a person door in them as well. So when they're in the down position, people can use this daily to come in and out the building. They probably will use this as an entry as well, the students. But then when you're moving large pieces of equipment or scenery down here to get it on the bed of a truck, we can actually roll them fully up. So this is our loading dock area under the canopy. There's 2 bays and a compactor. But I think this is going to be great, a huge asset for the School of Theatre to be able to bring in all the material that they need to make all of the sets and props and things like that. But also the functionality of being able to put it on the back of a large truck and get it out of here to another theatre is kind of exciting. So let's just take a wander around. And we can look down at the production wing. It's the piece that's most finished. Of course, they're going to start the bridge deck construction soon, so that's something we have to contend with. So I think if we just cross the street here, we can get a really nice view of the building. And again, working with the folks in Brookline was an interesting process. They really helped us in the design of this. The effort was to try and break the scale down, which I think it does. And also using some of these intermittent panels that have that shimmer to them really makes the building look different depending on whether it's sunny, 9 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night. And I think that kind of is in the DNA of this building in terms of it constantly changing. So that's the tour. I think we can sign off. Come and see a show when we're finished. It's going to be really exciting. Thank you very much.